The experts that best communicate their culture and their vision to their potential clients are those entrepreneurs that we remember. I'm Shelby Jo Long with the Expertise Podcast, and here we explore the stories of those entrepreneurs to inspire you to think about how you can monetize your expertise. Hello, everyone, and welcome to an episode of the Expertise Podcast, where I talk to experts that have created businesses out of their own expertise. They feed their passion, they build their business, they love what they do. So it's exciting to explore all these different opportunities that you have. Today, I continue the series of interviewing the 10 CEOs that are all a team on the Strategic Advisor Board. I am on the Strategic Advisor Board, and my colleague Joe is here today to talk about his business. And this series is to be able to explore our expertise, to talk about what we have to offer and how we help businesses on the Strategic Advisor Board, help them grow and scale. So Joe, welcome to the interview today. And it's Joe Trujillo, right?
Correct.
And your business is, can you remind me of your business name again?
I go by Skylark Enterprises.
Skylark Enterprises. I had that written down last week and I lost it. So thank you. Joe from Skylark Enterprises. I am very excited to learn more about your business and also about how your business evolved. So if you could just give us the background and that story, that would be great.
Sure. Glad to be here. Skylark Enterprises is just me, really. And I actually pride myself on that. And I tailored that business to be a one-on-one consulting experience for my clients. So how I got into that was coming out of the military about, 13 years ago, seems like. I really wanted to jump into something that was going to fulfill me and my repertoire, if you will. So everything that I've kind of built up to that point, because from before that, I was kind of trying to climb the corporate ladder, which, I was doing that. And then post-military, gaining all that experience and getting my education, I thought that, I'd take a stab at what I had in my bag of tricks to see what I could offer other people. Because as you meet people and start expanding your network, you start hearing about the woes of their business, and you're like, in your own head, you're like, well, I kind of have some experience in that, or I could kind of guide you there, or let me see what I can do for you. And so I really started dabbling in that just a little bit post-military as I was working on my master's degree in education at K-State University, go Cats. And, so it worked well for me. And actually it almost worked a little too well because I ended up networking to the point where I was driving down to Houston, Texas, to a seminar. And, in parallel, there was some hiring conference going on there. And I ran into some gal and she's like, well, would you be interested in, interviewing and just kind of seeing what maybe we have available for you? Well, sure enough, UTC's Pratt & Whitney offered me a management role, and I ended up taking that for a couple of years. But the only reason I took that was because I thought that, all the while being a consultant, maybe I didn't have all the ins and outs that I was looking for to help the bigger and better clients that I was ultimately trying to get my hands on. So, so I did another round of, 2 years here and 2 years there in the corporate world to kind of round out my expertise, as you call it. And it was about, a couple months pre-COVID that I went out and branched out on my own. So it was kind of coincidental and kind of convenient at the same time that I kind of went back out into the consulting world as an independent business consultant under the name of Skylark Enterprises, and was able to bring even more experience to the table. So, and that's just where my passion is. It's the one-on-one. It's being able to give someone that personal experience and bringing all my expertise to the table, and really just breaking their business down from them and walking it from A to Z, front door to back door, as I always call it. And in the Six Sigma lean world, the value stream mapping event where you break down every process they have. And if there's a Kaizen, you burst from there. You just kind of do the Gemba walk and then you just find out the problems. So that's really where my passion lies. That's what I enjoy about doing this. Not only the flexibility of my schedule, but the the reward you get from seeing somebody else taking over their business in a way that you've influenced, and then watching them grow and be successful. So that's where I'm at, and that's what I'm doing. And of course, I've got other things in the works as well, as you know, working with the Strategic Advisory Board. Sometimes a mouthful there, but SAB for short, as we call it. And I think we got some good things going there as well.
I do too. I'm very excited about that too, and we'll get to that collaboration later. I wanted to. There's so many exciting things happening, and I'm just so curious about your. I love the model of the one-on-one coaching. I think that's not one that I'm a coach and consultant too, and it's not one that we think about very often as like a model we want to work toward. But maybe that's something that. I don't know. It's interesting. It might feed into your education background too, because you and I also share that as a background, because I'm an educator too. But it's that one-on-one partnership and really working with somebody instead of just pointing towards solutions. It's really digging in, and I think it's a unique business model, not one that you hear of very often. So
yeah, I think a lot of the philosophies from my master's in education does play into the consulting/coaching world as well. Sure. Because you are not only trying to give someone the tools, the resources, or the information that they need to be successful, but in turn, as you know, as an educator, you kind of learn from your students as well. So as you're kind of guiding them through the pathway of success, somewhere along the way, you find out that there was something that maybe you didn't have in your bag of tricks that you can kind of secretly tuck in there and then be learning at the same time. So yeah, very rewarding in that manner. And it's for me, it is that philosophy. It's even though you can hit a certain level of education or a certain level of success in your own business, I don't think you ever really stop, nor should you. I mean, I think you definitely want to. Even for me, I've got my master's degree, but I still go to the local community college and get these technical certificates, whether it be in entrepreneurship or business management. It's just so you can have those extra tools in your pocket so that whenever you are either for yourself or for somebody else, you're able to facilitate there as well.
Absolutely. To build that experience and to build that knowledge is key. Also, another interesting connection to the Strategic Advisory Board, where we have that collection of individuals and solving problems together. That's something that I also feel with that. So, is there just another question about your own industry and your own consulting? Do you work within a certain industry, or do you work with the clients that are at a certain level with it sounds like an extended engagement, so it's not like you have that turnover very quickly. Is there a place or an industry or a psychological place that your clients usually are when you start to work with them?
Well, I target the small to medium-sized businesses. And I only do that because, again, I do want to bring in my one-on-one coaching consulting experience and make sure that it is as efficient and effective as it could be. But the philosophy for these guys is, and no, it's really not tailored to one industry or anything. I mean, the Lean Six Sigma application really is just wingdings and widgets, right? So it doesn't really matter what you manufacture or what service you provide. It's really how you break it down into a process. And then, for me, the key S in the 6S for me has always been standardization. If you can get to that level of standardization, then you can sustain. So once you hit those two S's, I think that you really got something going for yourself. But yeah, not really one particular industry or the other. I mean, I do prefer more of a business administrative type application or setting. But I mean, I've got experience in aerospace. I've dabbled a little bit in medical, straight contract manufacturing, construction. Yeah. I've dealt with a little bit of banking. I mean, it's really a wide array of clients, but really when I look at all of it, it kind of really just funnels down to the natural aspects of what Lean and Six Sigma has to offer.
Yeah, talk more about that. Talk more about that approach. Can you inform me about that?
Sure. So Lean Six Sigma, the ideologies and the methodologies therein. I always start with what I call, and everybody probably knows it, the Toyota method, but nobody ever really knows how to apply it. And it's as simple as when there's a problem, you stop. It comes from the Toyota manufacturing methodologies of, I think it was the early 80s when Toyota was really becoming a big name across the world. And their application was in the assembly line. If there was a problem, there was a giant red button, and it would stop all assemblies and all productions from all departments. And everybody would literally scramble to the problem and solve it right there on the spot. So that's kind of my intro to anybody I start working with is we're going to start digging here. And as we find the problems, we're going to stop and we're going to solve them, one by one. But it doesn't have to be two-dimensional of that either. It can also be very linear. We can just say, let's just start from how do you acquire clients to how do you deliver your goods? And let's just walk through those processes. And I think that when most people's problem is just organization or standardization. You get in there and you start looking through filing or just normal processes of how do I get this document to the next department kind of thing. Most people will be like, well, we don't really have anything formal. And I preach that automation is key. If you can somehow set up any automated system to do your work for you, that's one less thing you got to do. And in turn, that's now your efforts that can be applied elsewhere, whether it be developing the business or, managing from the top down. So I think that kind of encompasses most of what the lean applications would be. And like I said, with the 6S, it's a lot of just organizing. You go into these smaller businesses where there is no filing system and receipts are kept in a manila folder. And, QuickBooks hasn't been touched in 3 or 4 months, if at all, since they, implemented it. So it's getting those things back into position and getting them as automated as you can. Also breaking down the structure and organization of your company, trying to find out maybe where you are just a little too lean, or maybe you are just too robust, and then start doing the trimming from there. So, it's really just kind of, I think of it as kind of a sculpture. You're working with a model of clay here, and you kind of just start trimming it down till it becomes what you want it to be.
Right. That's your method? Yeah.
That's my method. I mean, it's kind of a hybrid Lean Six Sigma, but that's definitely my method. Yeah.
That's cool. You should publish it. That's what I think. Yeah, that's awesome. There's so many, I share a similar experience in working with many different businesses across multiple industries, whether it's publishing or whether it's in health or coaching or whatever. And it's interesting how a lot of that comes down to they all have similar problems. Mm-hmm. So there's similar issues, similar needs. So you can develop a system that is not industry specific. So
yeah, right. And there are standards out there. The ISOs and the AS 9100s of the world. They're out there. And if you just need to put some, and people might hear the term quality management system. If you just need to get a solid quality management system in place, the rest kind of does the work for you.
Right. Yeah. That's interesting. So that there's been this, you have such a mix of experience and whether it's one-on-one consulting or working in management or working in corporate America. And there's I feel that your message resonates with quite a few of our listeners, that there's this need to not necessarily get out of corporate America, but there's need to have your own thing and do your own thing. Do you remember when that happened with you? It sounds like it's kind of been an evolving process for that, but was there a light bulb moment, or was there something that happened that just inspired you to step outside and do that?
Yeah, I think it's kind of coming in waves, but all in all, the trajectory has been the same. So, from an early, even when I just got straight out of high school, I wanted to jump right into the corporate world. So I thought that climbing that ladder was going to be my pathway to success. Well, through the years, you hit the ceiling from time to time, just because
Sure.
you got to put in 2 years here in this role and 2 years here in this role, which was fine. And I think to a certain degree, you can get to a level of success, but then you start feeling like, well, I'm just kind of a number in a very large system. And sometimes you don't want to have to wait to be a part of something else, or you don't want to have to, as a manager, you got to worry about timesheets and hiring employees. And whereas when you're an independent business consultant, you kind of just shed all that, and you don't have to worry about, people who are adhering to HR rules and disciplining people and when they get their pay raises, and you can really focus on the particular problem in front of you. And that's kind of what I was saying was, it's just so nice to be able to be laser focused on something and not have all the extracurricular or the distractions that go along with being a corporate guy.
Sure.
So I think that's what was inviting to me to kind of pursue it even further. Like I said, I dabbled in it here and I dabbled in it there, but I think it all ultimately led back to where I am now. And I think that if I really didn't have to, I wouldn't go back. This is where it's at. And not to say that people who are trying to build on those things, there's nothing against that, but I guess that's kind of the sales pitch here is, there are people out there that you can bring in that you don't have to pay all the fringe benefits, and all the insurances and whatever goes along with hiring somebody in at a corporate management level. You don't have to do all that. You can bring somebody in it for a fee, work out the details of your agreement, and hopefully you get the results you're looking for. And then you part ways. You get the tools that you're looking for, and then you take those and go be above and beyond where you need to be. So that's also the nice thing, is there's no real marriage there for a consultant, unless it's long term, which again, that's never a bad thing either.
Yeah, that's true.
But that's my sales pitch, I guess, to the bigger companies is, you're not married to it. If you don't like it, right, you can get rid of it, or you can change it, or whatever the need is for you at that point.
How long is your typical relationship with that business when you work with them?
Gosh, I would say it typically ranges from about 3 to 6 months. Yeah, and some people are like, well, that's pretty quick. I'd be like, well, when you're working one-on-one with somebody day in, day out, you can really put them to work, and you start solving the problems really quickly. So right. I would say, just trying to think about my current clientele, I've probably got one client that's coming up on a year, but we're probably going to start hitting the negotiating stage here pretty soon about seeing if my services are even needed, or how I can then differently help their business in another way. So right. Yeah, 6 months to maybe a year. But that kind of goes with my philosophy. If you haven't solved the problem or the problems, in that short period of time, then there's probably bigger problems that lay within the root of your system and your organization that need to get rooted out. Right.
Well, and the ability for you to like laser focus and dig in, I think is what helps with that speed. But you do need an extended relationship to make any type of change. I mean, it's not just there's not just one solution to the problem, there's multiple. So there's right. That's definitely, I see so many, just everything you're talking about. I think your business, it feels very synergistic with the goals and in the strategic advisor board, to which now maybe we'll transition and talk about that. Just as a member of the strategic advisor board over the past, since its inception, has been really fun to be able to solve problems with people and to work on a team. And that sounds, it sounds like some of the fundamentals that you talk about, that you partner with somebody and you focus with somebody and you help move them through those different methods to grow their business, to make sure that their business is sustainable. We have a lot of those same goals in the strategic advisor board. Can you talk to me about that transition or those similarities?
Sure, absolutely. And it was kind of like I was talking about, you work with these clients, and along the way, sometimes you just pick up things you didn't know. That's the beauty about the strategic advisor board is we get on these client calls and I get to listen to 9 other board members talk about what they do and what they can bring to the table for our clients. And I'm constantly got a notebook out, writing things down, going, never thought about it like that. And it really does add to not what maybe my vantage point would be to the current client or their situation, but it also allows me to kind of afterwards review and then think about maybe how I could possibly change, because that's the name of the game, right? Continuous improvement. I'm not saying that whatever I have and my arsenal is tried and true, and that's the only way of getting things done. I mean, like I said, I'm always going back and trying to learn new things. So right. That's the beauty of the strategic advisor board, is that these clients are getting 10 CEOs that are experienced in their own way, in their own business. And, it may seem like a lot, but none of us really are going to just jump in and bombard you. It's going to be when the problem kind of reveals itself, then the person who's the expert in that area, in that arena, is going to come in and be able to give you what they have. And I think we all kind of piggyback off each other too. That's also the great thing about working on a team is, whether it be you or me or one of our colleagues say something, it triggers something in our head and we go, oh, well, allow me to springboard off of that. And then it just kind of opens the problem up just a little bit more to reveal what might be the issue. And I think that's where our clients are going to best benefit, is just getting not just one person's perspective and maybe not just a couple of people's perspective, but you have the ability to get 10 powerful people's experience and perspective so that you can take that and run with it.
Right. All of that is that all resonates so much with me too. The collection of experts and the one piece that you bring up, that the kind of new piece that people are talking about, is this development of ideas and evolution of ideas within the board and on the team. And can you, I guess I want you to talk more about that, because I think there's so much to that team dynamic and how ideas build upon each other. And sure. We've already seen some of that, and I think it's just going to continue. So, yeah.
So, as we work as a team, I think we still individually, we own a certain aspect of the strategic advisor board. For me, I serve as the VP of purchasing. I think our CEO, Jason, I think he looked at everybody and what they had in their arsenal and looked at it and says, well, hey, this guy, he's the expert in this arena. So this is where you're going to sit. And then when we come together and have those conversations, we're a bit self-driven. We don't really need to rely on another team member. Not that we don't, but we're kind of this driving force that just works in tandem. And so for me personally, when I see that someone's just really going off and really diving deep into one of our clients' issues, it just really gets my wheels turning. And I just start thinking about, well, gosh, even my current role as an independent business consultant, what am I taking away from all that? And what can I do to help, even my smaller type clientele?
Sure.
And then in turn, it makes me start jogging my memory and going back through the Rolodex of information that I've acquired through, my education and my experiences and my career. So that, kind of as you're waiting for your turn to talk, you've already got it built up in your head what you want to say. And so you're not really ever on the spot. And I think that's the beauty about working with the strategic advisor board. And whether it be on the phone calls or the videos with our clientele, but also, as we go back and kind of congregate in our Slack channels and our different, message boards, it also allows you to kind of bring that back over there and then again, relay what you have or what you've learned back to the team. So I'm often doing that, just kind of picking everything, either a little bit here, a little bit there, from each individual, and in turn helps me out. And I think then in turn helps our clients out.
Absolutely. We've talked, Jason talked about this multiple times about how there's not another think tank, not another approach out there like this. And the diversity in the backgrounds and all those different perspectives working together that can just build upon each other. I think that's just such a powerful piece for us to go through, but then that provides the best solutions for the clients.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of collective experience there.
Yeah, and I think Jason's done such a great job putting this all together for us, and not just the board members, but it goes well beyond that. I mean, I know for me as an independent business consultant, if I'm working with somebody, I said, hey, you're going to need someone to come in here and really look over your finances. With the strategic advisor board, you don't have to. Jason's already got that guy in his hip pocket. His endless amount of resource partners that feed into it. He can just turn around, probably make one phone call, and the client's solution is right there for him. So that's really what draws me to serving on the strategic advisor board, is just giving the clients the reassurance to know that whatever you need, we got it.
We have it. That's so true, because not only on the board do we have the experience, but then we have 60 providers that are all connected to the board too, and that's something it's a pretty incredible offer. So yeah. I mean, I didn't even ask you how. I mean, I guess we kind of talked about how you got into the strategic advisor board, but it's something that's such a new thing that it's nice. Some of those ideas, like the synergy and the ideas building on each other, I think is great. So.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was, I was just doing my thing as a consultant. And I think as anybody who's out there on their own, doing business on their own, is just continually expanding their network. And somehow Jason and we crossed paths and we just started talking. Initially started about just talking, white label agreement, partnership kind of thing. But as he was talking more and more about this idea of putting together their strategic advisor board, which I don't think the name really existed at the time, but just hearing about the idea, I'm just thinking, wow, this is genius. You're taking people who work independently for themselves already, but in turn can come to the table and sit on a board and be able to facilitate to clients who are truly in need of, XYZ. And that's where I think he's handpicked each individual board member. And I think he had it in mind exactly what areas he wanted to fulfill. And he did that. He handpicked these people. And so, I'm humbled to have been picked to sit on the board. For me, I'm out there. I feel like I'm just this lowly consultant guy who's just scraping knees and elbows trying to acquire clientele. But Jason always looks at the best of everything. He's very optimistic and very driven. And, to have somebody like that as a client, or as a colleague to help our clients, it almost kind of gives you the reassurance of your own abilities too. So, you're not just out there on your own, but you've got tons of resources to rely on. And for me, it's an honor to be part of the organization.
I feel very similar. So we have very similar experience. So it's you're on your own, and then you have all these opportunities, and it's just been really fun to be a part of. And then it makes me a better consultant on top of that, because I have all this experience around me and we have all the resources there. So very similar experience with me too. Well, Joe, to kind of wrap up, I always ask this at the end of the interview. I was wondering if you had any advice, or you had any, I guess advice is the best way to say it, for people that might be thinking about putting together a business on their own, to get out of corporate America, to make a business out of their expertise. What would you say to them from your experience?
Gosh, if you are wholehearted and believe in the idea, do it. You are going to go through your woes. It's going to be hard at first, and you're going to doubt yourself. But if you truly believe in the idea and the passion you have for doing something like that, especially whether it be, a product or a service in your local community, stand behind it, and you're going to have to live and breathe it. That's really what it comes down to. And I'm not saying extend yourself to the point where you've just exhausted all your resources and now you're living on the streets. But if you're well prepared enough, any entrepreneur knows that you got to seek your capital. You got to have your business model in place. And once you get those couple things just going for yourself, the rest of it really kind of takes care of itself on its own. You get your storefront, you get some marketing going, you start your networking, you start building relationships, even partnerships, or just your vendors and your resource partners, as we call it. You'll just be surprised how much business will start coming your way. So my advice would be prepared, because it will happen. But it's also a nice problem to have when you can kind of be picky about who your clients are, or which directions you want to go. That's a good problem to have for a business, is to be at a kind of a turnstile or a fork in the road and say, I've got options. Well, that's great, because some people don't. They live in the red for 2 or 3 years. So if you're really adamant about starting your business or just getting your business off the ground, it's okay to ask for help. That was one thing that I wish I would have done a little bit more. I was just very headstrong to think that I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it on my own. But, as I started building that network and I started meeting like-minded individuals, they were the ones telling me, man, you got to find the people that are going to mentor you. You got to find the people that you can rely on when you're, in a sticky situation. And so that's what I've learned. And I would just say that don't be afraid to raise your hand, admit when you're not doing so well, and then just ask for help. So the rest will kind of fall into place.
I think that is advice people need to hear, for sure, that you don't have to do it alone, that there are people around you, you can find mentors that are trusted. And I think that's a key piece of advice, because as entrepreneurs, you step out on your own and you want to do all these things and do it yourself, but you don't have to. There are people that have walked that path too. So I think that's a great piece of advice. So, well, Joe, thank you so much. I feel it was so nice to learn more about your business and more about your background. And I appreciate you coming on to the podcast to let us know how to transform your expertise into a business. So thank you again for coming on here.
Yeah, glad to be here. Always a pleasure.
And I look forward to the next time when we interview another person about transforming their expertise into a business. So thank you, and we'll see you next time.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Expertise Podcast, and hope you're inspired to think about how to further monetize the expertise and the processes that you have in your own business. See you next time.